Imagine standing on a plateau so high that every breath feels like a battle, where oxygen is so scarce that survival seems impossible for most of us. Yet, for thousands of years, the Tibetan people have thrived in this harsh environment, calling it home. What's their secret? How do they flourish at an altitude where most would struggle to breathe? The answer lies deep within their DNA. Tibetan genetics hold the key to mysteries that scientists have been trying to unlock for decades. From unique adaptations that allow their bodies to extract oxygen more efficiently to genetic traits that have baffled researchers, Tibetan DNA isn't just special, it's extraordinary. But this isn't just a story about science or survival. It's also about power, ethics, and control. Who owns this DNA? How is it being used? And why are governments and researchers so eager to get their hands on it? As we dive deeper into the world of Tibetan DNA, prepare to uncover a story that blends cutting-edge science, human resilience, and questions that challenge our sense of morality. What does Tibetan DNA reveal about us as humans? And more importantly, how should it be treated in a world where technology and politics often collide? Stay with us as we unravel the secrets of Tibetan DNA and explore why it matters more than ever. Tibetan DNA holds secrets that are rewriting what we thought we knew about human adaptation and survival. To truly appreciate its uniqueness, we need to understand the extraordinary challenges Tibetans face daily. Living on the roof of the world, Tibetans endure altitudes of over 4,000 meters, where oxygen levels are nearly 40% lower than at sea level. For most people, this would cause altitude sickness, fatigue, and even life-threatening complications. Yet, for Tibetans, it's just another day. What sets them apart? It all comes down to genetics. A groundbreaking discovery revealed that Tibetans possess a unique variation in the EPAS1 gene, sometimes called the super athlete gene. This gene helps their bodies regulate oxygen more efficiently, allowing them to thrive where most would struggle to survive. What's even more fascinating is that this gene variant isn't found in other human populations to the same extent. Scientists believe it was inherited from an ancient human species known as the Denisovans, whose genetic traces live on in Tibetan DNA. But the EPAS1 gene is only the beginning. Tibetans also show adaptations in their circulatory system, including higher hemoglobin levels and better blood flow to vital organs, enabling their bodies to use limited oxygen more effectively. These adaptations are not just rare, they are a testament to how humans can evolve to survive in the most extreme environments. This unique genetic makeup has made Tibetan DNA a treasure trove for researchers. It provides insights into how our species has adapted to challenging conditions over millennia. It could even pave the way for new medical breakthroughs, such as treatments for hypoxia, a condition where tissues don't receive enough oxygen. However, these discoveries raise important questions. How did these adaptations develop? What can Tibetan DNA tell us about human evolution? And what responsibilities do researchers have when studying such sensitive genetic material? These are the questions we'll explore further, as the story of Tibetan DNA continues to unfold. The story of Tibetan DNA is not just about survival, it's about thriving in an environment that challenges the very limits of human biology. At the heart of their resilience lies the science of genetics, with specific genes playing a pivotal role in their incredible adaptations. Let's start with the EPAS1 gene, often referred to as the super athlete gene. Found in a higher frequency among Tibetans than any other population, this gene is central to their ability to survive in low oxygen conditions. What makes it so special? The EPAS1 gene regulates hemoglobin production in the blood. While most of us would see a spike in hemoglobin at high altitudes to compensate for less oxygen, excessive hemoglobin can thicken the blood and cause health issues. Tibetans, on the other hand, maintain lower hemoglobin levels, which prevents complications while still delivering enough oxygen to their bodies. It's a fine-tuned system that's as efficient as it is remarkable. But EPAS1 is just one part of the puzzle. Scientists have also identified other genes like EGLN1, which plays a critical role in oxygen sensing. This gene, too, shows unique variations in Tibetans, enhancing their ability to adapt to extreme altitudes without suffering from conditions like chronic mountain sickness. And then there's the ACE gene, which influences blood flow and cardiovascular function. Variations of this gene help Tibetans maintain optimal blood pressure, even in conditions where the heart has to work much harder to pump oxygenated blood. Together, These genetic adaptations create a blueprint for survival that is unmatched in the human world. What's even more fascinating is how these genes seem to have evolved over a relatively short period of time. Studies suggest that these adaptations arose in Tibetans roughly 30,000 years ago, a blink of an eye in evolutionary terms. It's a testament to the powerful interplay between natural selection and the harsh environment of the Tibetan plateau. This unique genetic profile isn't just a marvel of evolution, it's also a source of hope for science. Tibetan adaptations could inspire medical breakthroughs for diseases caused by low oxygen levels, from respiratory illnesses to heart conditions. The potential is as vast as the landscape from which these adaptations emerged. As we delve deeper into these genetic wonders, it's clear that Tibetan DNA offers more than just a glimpse into human evolution. It's a window into the resilience of life itself. For the Tibetan people, their DNA is not just a scientific phenomenon, it's a story of identity, culture, and spiritual connection to their land. While science explains the genetic adaptations that help them survive at extreme altitudes, Tibetan traditions provide a rich and meaningful interpretation of their unique resilience. In Tibetan culture, the high-altitude plateau isn't just a physical home, it's a sacred realm intertwined with spirituality. Many Tibetans believe that their ability to thrive in such a challenging environment is a blessing from their deities. According to Tibetan Buddhism, the mountains, rivers, and valleys are imbued with spiritual energy, and living in harmony with this energy is essential for health and well-being. The body's ability to adapt to the land is often seen as a reflection of this deep spiritual connection. Interestingly, some Tibetan myths and oral histories align with the scientific discovery of their genetic uniqueness. Stories of divine ancestors or early settlers surviving in the harsh highlands speak to the resilience and ingenuity of the Tibetan people. These tales, passed down through generations, emphasize perseverance, humility, and unity with nature, all qualities reflected in their genetic adaptations. For example, the EPAS1 gene, which allows Tibetans to flourish at high altitudes, could be viewed through the lens of karmic strength or spiritual reward for living in harmony with the sacred environment. This blending of spiritual interpretation and biological reality highlights how culture and science can coexist, offering different perspectives on the same phenomenon. Beyond spiritual interpretations, Tibetan DNA carries a sense of pride and identity. It symbolizes the Tibetan people's long-standing connection to their homeland, their ability to endure and prosper, and their unique heritage that distinguishes them from others. The genetic diversity among Tibetans also reflects their complex history, thousands of years of interactions with neighboring communities and adaptation to environmental pressures. In recent years, however, discussions around Tibetan DNA have also sparked debates about ethics and sovereignty. With scientific research delving into their genetic code, many Tibetans worry about the misuse of their genetic information. Questions arise. Who owns this data? How will it be used? And, most importantly, will it benefit the Tibetan people, or will it be exploited for purposes that disregard their rights and traditions? Despite these concerns, one thing remains certain. Tibetan DNA represents far more than an adaptation to altitude. It encapsulates a people's history, their sacred relationship with their land, and their resilience in the face of immense challenges. Understanding Tibetan DNA is not just about uncovering scientific truths, it's also about honoring the culture, traditions, and identity of the Tibetan people. The study of Tibetan DNA has opened remarkable windows into science and history, but it has also stirred a storm of ethical debates. Who owns this genetic data? How is it being collected? And most importantly, how should it be used? One of the biggest concerns revolves around consent. Many Tibetan individuals and communities may not fully understand the scientific implications of donating their genetic material. Are they informed about how their DNA will be used in research, and do they have the choice to opt out? Reports suggest that in some cases, DNA samples have been collected as part of state programs disguised as health initiatives. This raises questions about whether consent is truly voluntary or coerced under broader surveillance campaigns. The ownership of genetic data is another contentious issue. Once a DNA sample is collected, who controls it? Ideally, individuals and their communities should have a say in how their genetic information is stored, shared, and applied. However, in many instances, this control is handed over to researchers, governments, or corporations, often without the donor's knowledge or agreement. This lack of agency over one's own genetic material can lead to exploitation, especially for marginalized communities like Tibetans. Then there's the risk of misuse. Tibetan DNA holds incredible potential for scientific discovery, but it also presents opportunities for harm. Could the data be used for purposes that violate the community's rights, such as targeted surveillance or state repression? For instance, mass DNA collection campaigns in Tibet have been linked to broader efforts by the Chinese government to monitor and control minority populations. Such practices are not just ethically questionable, they also deepen mistrust between researchers and the communities they study. Even in purely scientific research, there are concerns about fairness. Tibetans' genetic adaptations are unique and valuable to studies on human biology and high-altitude survival. But how much of the benefit from this research goes back to the Tibetan people? Are they given access to healthcare advancements or other benefits resulting from their contributions? Or does the knowledge gained from their DNA primarily benefit outsiders? Another layer of complexity is the cultural sensitivity around DNA. For many Tibetans, the idea of their genetic material being studied, stored, or shared without their approval is deeply troubling. It's not just a scientific matter. It's about respect for their heritage, identity, and beliefs. When researchers ignore this perspective, they risk alienating the very communities whose participation is crucial to their work. To navigate these ethical challenges, researchers must adhere to strict guidelines. Gaining informed consent, respecting the sovereignty of Tibetan communities, and ensuring that scientific benefits are shared equitably are crucial steps. Equally important is building trust, engaging with local leaders, listening to their concerns, and recognizing the cultural significance of DNA in Tibetan society. Ultimately, the debate over Tibetan DNA isn't just about science, it's about humanity. How we handle these ethical dilemmas reflects our commitment to fairness, respect, and equity. By putting these values first, we can ensure that the study of Tibetan DNA contributes to global knowledge while upholding the dignity and rights of the Tibetan people. As we move forward, the study of Tibetan DNA stands at a crossroads. The scientific potential is immense, but so are the responsibilities that come with it. How can we harness the power of this research while respecting the rights and dignity of the Tibetan people? The future of Tibetan DNA research promises groundbreaking advancements. Scientists hope to unlock deeper insights into genetic adaptations that allow Tibetans to thrive at high altitudes. These findings could have applications beyond the mountains, paving the way for medical breakthroughs in treating conditions like chronic hypoxia, anemia, or even certain heart and lung diseases. By studying how the body adapts to low-oxygen environments, researchers may improve treatments for patients in intensive care or those with respiratory illnesses. Another exciting frontier is personalized medicine. Imagine treatments tailored to an individual's genetic profile, offering better outcomes and fewer side effects. For Tibetans and others living in high-altitude regions, this could mean customized healthcare solutions that address unique genetic traits. Advances in genetic research could also support Tibetans by identifying hereditary conditions early and offering targeted interventions. However, the ethical challenges we face today will only grow as this research advances. As DNA technology becomes more powerful, the potential for misuse increases. Genetic data could be exploited for surveillance, discrimination, or even attempts to artificially engineer genetic traits, a scenario that raises significant moral and scientific concerns. The future also depends on inclusivity. It's crucial that Tibetan communities are not just participants in DNA studies but also beneficiaries. This means ensuring that any medical or scientific breakthroughs derived from Tibetan DNA research are accessible to Tibetans themselves. It also means building stronger partnerships between researchers and Tibetan communities. Listening to their voices, addressing their concerns, and involving them in decision-making processes will foster mutual trust and respect. Another vital area for progress is in establishing global standards for genetic research. Governments, institutions, and scientists must work together to create frameworks that protect participants' rights while promoting ethical scientific inquiry. These standards should emphasize transparency, informed consent, and the equitable distribution of research benefits. Looking ahead, technology will also play a key role in safeguarding genetic data. Advances in encryption and secure data storage could ensure that DNA samples and related information are protected against misuse. Meanwhile, collaborations between international organizations and local governments could provide additional oversight, ensuring that ethical principles are upheld. The story of Tibetan DNA research is far from over. It is a story that reflects the broader challenges of balancing scientific ambition with ethical responsibility. By addressing these challenges thoughtfully and respectfully, we can shape a future where research serves not just the pursuit of knowledge but also the betterment of humanity. This moment holds an opportunity, one to redefine how we approach genetic research, not just in Tibet but globally. It's a chance to prove that science and ethics are not opposing forces but partners in the quest for progress. What will we choose to prioritize as we move forward? The answer to this question will shape the future of not only Tibetan DNA research but the values we hold as a global community.